Good evening, my local drones. It is I, Biogun, and I'm back again for another video. So today, me and my buddy Fvlminatvs, we're gonna be talking about the movie slash OVA, because there's two versions of it, of Macross Plus.
And I'm ready because I got a brew.
Yes, and it's like midnight for him, and it's like afternoon for me. So
it's almost midnight, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Phil, do you know any bit about the background of Macross Plus, like when they made this, or? Where this kind of fits into the Macross timeline?
I believe they made this somewhere around 94. They started making it in 94, and they started releasing it on VHS. There's 4 episodes. The movie, I believe, came out after the last VHS episode was released, and it has additional footage at the end. It does shorten the story a little bit. It does cut some things out, but it adds some additional footage near the end. So it's kind of a trade-off. There is no perfect version that I know of where it's like a director's cut of the final episode that incorporates all the movie stuff. But yeah, I mean, both are actually kind of worth watching. Back in the day when I got this, I got it fan subbed, and I got both versions, and I kind of like finagled the recording, so the final episode pretty much is the last 50 or so minutes of the film. So I kind of mixed and matched a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, so I kind of made my own perfect version, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's a good show. It's a good show, and so yeah, it's worth talking about. This was at the time this was hailed as, at least by those of us over here in the States, like around 95, 96, 97, it was being hailed as the best animated OVA ever.
And I'm watching this, and the amount of detail that went into this is actually quite impressive. Like even the cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Like even you know the scenes where like the AI is watching Isamu through like the cameras. Like even the cameras are very detailed. Like you'll see like the lenses zoom in and out, like little mechanical things move and shit. Like there's so much, like it isn't just this movie, this anime looks good. Like there's a lot of attention to detail as well put into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an interesting show because it's directed by Shinichiro Watanabe and Shoji Kawamori, and Watanabe has a kind of a reputation with some people as kind of being heavily influenced by Western stuff and wanting to kind of Westernize the things he works on of late. In some ways that turns out really well. Like Cowboy Bebop was really, really good because he directed Cowboy Bebop, and of course that was a big hit in the West.
Like it's more popular in the West than it is Japan because it's more Western. It's that would be one of the few anime I would say that was more for a foreign audience.
I would say, because the funny thing is though, like, and I've talked to a couple Japanese people about this, and Cowboy Bebop was kind of, I don't want to say it was a bomb, but it really just didn't get noticed in Japan until it got noticed in the West.
Oh, okay.
And people who were not even like geeks and nerds, like just normies, came out to like watch Cowboy Bebop and discovered it. So like even non-anime fans were discovering some anime like Cowboy Bebop was like a really good, really interesting like gateway to it. He also directed Samurai Champloo.
That's pretty good,
which was another really interesting in its Western influences.
Yeah, like the hip hop and like when I watched that show, there was definitely a bit more of a hip hop kind of vibe to it.
Attitude. Oh yeah, there was very much a hip hop vibe.
Oh,
and then
he's really one of the characters. I think it's Mugen, the not the Ronin guy. He's the swordsman guy with the one sword, because the Ronin's the other dude. Like he is very much like hip hop. Like he's in your face.
Yeah.
Like he is. I'm just like and like his breakdancing fighting style. It's very cool to watch.
Yeah, and then you've got Kids on the Slope, Sakamichi no Apollon.
I didn't see that.
That's also, and it's funny because you got Cowboy Bebop, you got Samurai Champloo, which is with hip hop, and then you got Sakamichi no Apollon, which is about jazz. And so they all have like this musical element in common. He also directed, I think, Carol and Tuesday, which I haven't seen. and then you get him co-directing with what the hell is it called? Macross Plus with the original Macross creator Shoji Kawamori. And I don't know how much of the incorporation of the music into the action was Shinichiro Watanabe, but Watanabe really does seem to have that penchant for kind of merging music with action and tapping really good musicians to do the music for the show. I mean, the music in Macross Plus was done mostly by Yoko Kanno, who this was my first introduction to her. And Cowboy Bebop's score, a lot of it was done by Yoko Kanno as well. And it's just when it comes to the musical direction, man, like Yoko Kanno is she's just a legend. Like, not kidding. Like, Yoko Kanno is
like basically
ridiculous.
If it's good anime music, it's 8 times out of 10 it's probably a Yoko Kanno who's behind it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff that she did right now. And I mean, some of the shows were misses, and some of them, wow, she did Code Geass, theme song arrangement and composition. Well, it's just theme song. Cowboy Bebop, she did the music as well as the theme. Escaflowne, yeah, Vision of Escaflowne, she did the music for. Great score. We talked about her when we must have talked about her when we did
Yes,
our
we
Vision
did.
of Escaflowne thing.
I think we did. Yeah, because I rewatched it recently. Yeah, we did. We did talk about it.
She did Ghost in the Cell, Standalone Complex, and she returns to Macross for, like, you know, Macross Frontier, Macross 7, stuff like that. Like, I mean, she's just got... Oh, yeah, she did Sakamichi no Apollon. So I'm just looking through some of the stuff that she's worked on. Tenku no Escaflowne.
Yeah, she's got her fingers in a lot of pies. I actually like the music in the show. Like, it has this almost like techno, not techno, but I like the scenes where it has those. It has this weird like techno eerie kind of music to it, like uncanny valley kind of music to it. Like, especially when it gets to like some of the more creepier parts.
Yeah, well, she does pop music, but not like when she does Sharon Apple's music. It's not just J-pop. It's a lot more. Like,
yeah, she like.
I mean,
like
some of it's almost like house music. Like some of the songs are house music and trance and like, you know, for that kind of like dance. Other stuff is just like really weird, like Asain, which, like, as one of my friends in college described it, it sounds like Priestesses of Loth chanting over a human sacrifice.
Yes, it kind of does.
Really, really friggin' eerie shit. And it's like she does. There's that. There's like one of my favorite songs is Idle Talk. And if you listen to Idle Talk, and it actually plays at the beginning of the 3rd episode. I think it plays at the beginning of the 3rd episode. Let me check. Nah, not the beginning of the 3rd episode. Beginning of the 2nd episode, it must be.
Yeah.
Yep, it plays at the beginning of the 2nd episode. I brought it up right now on my computer. But yeah, so it plays at the beginning. Idle Talk is a great song, and if you can listen to it, it sounds like she sampled porno movies. Because the dialogue in the background, that you got to really listen to it, but it's like filthy. Yeah. And most of the song is in French. I have no idea what they're saying. I'm pretty sure it's in French though. Yeah. But
well, it's also a bit of the cinematography. Oh, actually, we shouldn't. No, I'm going ahead of myself.
Well, we want to probably get.
I just want to say that like some of the camera panning has a bit of overtones, like a bit of sexual overtones. Like, there's definitely like we'll mention it, but we are getting ahead of ourselves. So if I remember correctly, this is like set 30 years after the original Macross show. In fact, we actually see the original we actually see the Macross in the show as well. I like how the show actually pays respect to Macross as well.
Yeah. And it's funny because like the fighters that are being test piloted, they all show up in Macross 7, which takes place I think a couple years after this.
Yes.
So like the YF-19 and the YF-21 end up both getting commissioned as the VF-19 and the VF-21, and they pop up in the in Macross 7, I believe.
Yeah, and main character's just such a giga Chad that he gets it. He just has one. Like he walked up to
And
the base. Can I have a robot? And the guy said yes.
yeah, and well, I don't want to get into the other fighter yet because that's kind of a spoiler. But yeah, that other fighter that pops up near the end, that I think also is commissioned, or at least the design is commissioned. I don't recall, but I'm pretty sure that shows up in Macross 7 as well.
Yeah, like I like it how the show pays, like they even sing I forget what song they sing, but they sing what a Min made song in one of the episodes. Well, I was like, oh, that's a cool callback.
Okay, she's singing "My Boyfriend Is a Pilot" in the karaoke. One of the characters.
Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, boy.
Yeah. Like for a brief second, you can hear the final notes of "My Boyfriend Is a Pilot." So I find that cool. That's really cool.
I just like the callbacks. Like I like how it's respecting the previous work while also being its own. I like that.
Oh God, yeah, and it really is. It is a standalone story. And it's really, because of that, it's really tight. It's really well paced. Each episode is about 45 minutes long. And they're long enough to give the characters, I think, room to breathe while keeping the plot going at a really good pace.
Yeah.
This isn't like, if you're used to like long form storytelling, like 12 or 13 to like 24, 26 episodes, this is going to seem a little short. But it's really tight, and it's really
I actually
focused.
it felt really complete. Like even it being 4 episodes, like it's like I didn't really feel anything was really missed out. Like, there's some shows that you watch and it's like, man, if only this had one more episode or an episode or two to flesh out this idea or thing, then this would be perfect. But like this show feels complete with just 4 episodes. It's good.
The only thing it's lacking, I guess, and this is more, because if Americans, we have a tendency to have a much more of a denouement phase, a much more of a resolution phase at the end of a lot of our storytelling, and a lot of like some European movies I've seen, like they just kind of like end abruptly as soon as the conflict is resolved. It ends. This kind of does the same thing. You don't really get a lot of denouement. You don't really get a lot of, what happens to them? Where do they go down the line? You don't really get any of that.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I'd say it's pretty satisfactory.
I think
most of the story gets tied up.
Yeah, most of the story gets tied up, and it leaves like little seeds for Macross 7. The jet fighters and shit, and actually some of the technology which we'll talk about, like some of that is actually in Macross Frontier, and like this is
a lot. Yeah, some of it does pop up in Macross Frontier as well.
Yeah, like this. Like I think this movie is, even though the story like leaves a bit incomplete, like it does leave a bit abruptly, but the seeds it leaves behind further expanded upon in other works like Macross 7, which we'll eventually cover because man, I have a lot to say about that show.
Macross 7?
Yeah, it's good.
Or Macross Frontier?
Macross 7, Macross Frontier, I was kind of meh on.
I really liked Frontier, but yeah, we'll talk about that. Like 7 is interesting because I remember 7 was hated.
Yes,
in the late 90s. 7 was hated. It was just like it was too. I guess we were all just like really edgy kids. We were like 19 and 20 and 21, and we all wanted like, it was just too, like, I don't know, maybe too happy, but like, yeah, maybe idealist. I mean, the thing with Macross, and I'll probably mention this again when we get to Macross 7, but like, I wasn't sold. Like the first time I tried to watch it, I like dropped it. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Like basically,
but then I gave it a shot. I gave it a shot. I like genuine shot, and I liked it.
Yeah, like basically, I was told it was kind of stupid. And, like, for the first couple of episodes, it was kind of stupid, but as, like, the show went on, I'm just like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like, it's a bit too idealistic for my taste, but, like, I get it. I get it what the show's going for. Like, it's a bit more upbeat, but not exactly upbeat. It's a bit more idealistic. But, yeah, we should continue on with Macross Plus. So...
Yeah.
So, the story of Macross Plus,
Well, let's kind of briefly... Because, like, if you haven't seen it, like, let's briefly introduce some of the characters.
Yes.
Right? The 3 main characters. Let's briefly introduce the 3 main characters. We actually see them in the opening shot.
Yeah.
The opening shot is excellent.
Yes.
And that's when we first hear, like, Yoko Kanno's composition. It's just the song voices being sung by Rika Fukami, who is Myung-Fan Long's voice actress.
Nice.
And that's when we're introduced to... we we see a shot of the planet Eden with the windmill energy thing, windmill farms, right? And then we see Myung as a young girl. And this opening shot is just like perfect because we see Myung, we see her standing, and then we get a sense of depth and just the immense scale of these giant windmills because they're so blurry and huge in the distance, and it creates like this sense of scale and distance and depth. As she's looking up at the hill with the wind blowing, and then like soaring above is like the her teenage friends Gold and Isamu, and Gold's like helping ride the bicycle that propels the little glider that they built.
Yeah.
And Isamu ends up going flying, and it's like you can see like they're young boys, they're teenagers, and they actually managed to pull something off, right? And that's how it starts. You see the three of them as friends, and then it just like cuts to the future. And Isamu's now in space fighting against Zentradi as this ace pilot, and we get a real quick establishment of how he is an extremely capable fighter pilot and is extremely skilled, but also we get this impression that he's a hothead, that he's a risk taker, that his fellow pilots don't entirely trust him because he rides the line of like one buddy he saves. He gets in front of him, blocks his shot, takes out the enemy, but then turns around and shoots right past, like within like a foot or two of his friend to hit the bogey that's right behind him. And he saved his life, but at the same time, like almost killed him. And so you get this idea that this guy is like this hotshot who's also extremely arrogant. So it establishes that aspect of his personality.
Like, imagine Max, but more hot-blooded and arrogant about it. Like, this is like he's that level of pilot. Like, he's Max level. And Max was a Giga Chad at this shit. So obviously, I just realized something. I like it how it kind of brings up similar characters, but it kind of swaps roles almost in a way.
In a sense, yeah. And it establishes that, and it establishes that he gets in trouble a lot because then right after that scene, he's being dressed down by his superior, and then as punishment, he's taken out of combat and he's made a test pilot. And you get the idea that like this was meant to be not just a reward, more like a way to basically find a way to get to get rid of this guy and the problems he causes, and at the same time get him to channel his crazy ass energies
into something else,
into something constructive, right? Something that they can use.
Yeah, because like this guy is kind of like a loose cannon. Like I actually understand from a military perspective why you would have someone that like put on the sideline. Like he's great in combat, but he's a loose cannon.
Yeah. And so, the funny thing is he's sent back home. He's sent back to the colony planet of Eden to go to the New Edwards Air Force Base there to be the test pilot for the YF-19, which is hilarious because this has crippled or killed its last couple of test pilots. And he's like, all right, now that Daddy's home, don't worry. We're fine now that I'm here. And then he sees who his opponent is because they're testing both planes, but the idea is only one of them is going to get the deal, right? Only one of them is going to get the deal to be made, accepted as the new mainline.
Mass-produced. This is going to be the new mass-produced model, and we're like testing shit. Yeah. This is typical military protocol.
And then he finds that he's not just test piloting this new plane. He's also up against one of his old friends. So it's this interesting reunion, and he's up against the half Zentradi guy that used to be his buddy. And right off the bat, now it's establishing like Gold is testing this plane, but what's interesting about it is it directly connects to his brain.
Yes.
So he kind of sits in the cockpit like in a lotus position, like meditating. And what's interesting is like this guy is half Zentradi or full Zentradi, I don't remember.
No, I think he's half.
He is half.
Him being half.
Yeah, and this plane is directly under his mental controls. And what's funny is they do this all visually. excuse me, they don't actually say, "Oh, this is hooked up to his brain and everything." No, they actually show it, right? They show him hook his head up to like the helmet and everything.
And you see
We see like
you see
the
little
pulses of
going
energy.
off. Like you see him going off. Like
Exactly.
he's thinking it and his arm moves. Like it's really, I like it.
And then like they animate like how his eyeball's moving under his eyelid when it's closed, and then you see the cameras on the front of the plane like focus and unfocus. You see how he imagines his hands moving and changing shape, and then the wings move and adjust. And it's like, without telling you anything, they demonstrate this. And what's great about this is this is actual, like, what, you know, this is a lost art form, unfortunately, it seems. This is the show don't tell. Like, they're showing you who these characters are. They're establishing who these characters are by letting you see them.
Yeah, because
right?
this makes Gold seem like, you know, he's a lot more control. Not exactly reserved, but he has more control.
And that's the funny thing, because the Zentradi are the warrior race, right?
Yes.
And so like Gold is focused. He's kind of more zen, whereas he's almost like, you know, if I was comparing to something from another science fiction franchise, he's almost acting like he's trying to be a Vulcan.
Yes.
Right? And
it's
then
like he's a Romulan
Isamu,
trying to be a Vulcan.
more like a Klingon trying to be a Vulcan, but still, you know, then he meets him and Isamu meet one another, and right off the bat you can see the tension in the air, right? They're at the board meeting, and everything, he's being briefed on the situation and by the colonel, I think his rank is Colonel Millard, and Isamu's being briefed on that, and then Gold comes in the room, and right off the bat you can see these guys know each other, and if you were paying attention in the very opening, you know, you'll recognize both of them, so that you should see that they
it's
do
like,
know
oh,
each
the
other.
friends, they're back together again, and then you see the tension in the room. It's like, oh no, what happened?
And you're like, what happened between these two? Because it's like these guys freaking hate each other, and so what caused these two guys to freaking hate each other like this, right? And that's right off the bat, like, you should be asking questions, right? It's like, okay, these two guys hate each other. What's going on there? And that's when we find out like all kinds of stuff about how the YF-19 is being repaired, because you know, the last pilot basically like damn near killed himself, or did kill himself, and wrecked the plane, so now it's got to be fixed. And so he does a lot of simulator tests, and while he's doing the simulator tests, he's like wrecking it. And the young guy, I love the guy, I love the kid who invented the damn thing.
Oh yeah, he's great.
The design of the thing, I can't remember his name. Crap. What the hell is his name? Let me look it up. He's fan. I love that kid. That kid is great. Yang Newman. Yeah, Yang Newman. He's great, dude. Newman is great. He's just all pissed off and everything like that. And then like, what does Isamu do? And again, this shows his character. He walks up. He gets out of the simulator. He walks up to one chick, Lucy, who is, by the way, her voice actress is Megumi Hayashibara, who I believe played Rei Ayamanami and girl type Ranma.
Nice.
So he walks up to the chick Lucy, and I love how they, you know, she's a foreigner, so she gets a big nose. Oh, she's not Japanese. Let's give her a big ass nose. But you know, so he asks Lucy, he's like, "Yo, babe, what's up?" I'm like, "Let's go for a ride. I'm done today." And they're like, "What?" He just drags her off on a date, and he's on his motorcycle. And again, you see that like devil may care attitude and everything like that. And that leads to eventually at the end of the episode, near the end of the episode, you see, or halfway through the episode, then it introduces the third member of the triangle, which is Myung. But it introduces her along with, I guess you could say, the virtual idol, they call it, right? The virtualoid idol.
I want to talk about a scene where, like, you know how they're in a conference and you see, like, the idol going up the stairs? Like, you see what the audience sees, and then you see, like, just a box. And, like it's almost...
and then the song kicks in.
Yeah. Like,
and,
you
like,
have this juxtaposition of, like, seeing this beautiful woman going up the stairs with these people, and then you just see a box, and then you see the woman, then you see the box, then you see the woman. Like, you have this very interesting juxtaposition. It's like, oh, it's virtual.
And then it zooms in on the eye of the box, the big black box, which is, if that doesn't make you think of HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, you need to go watch.
That's what I was getting vibes off.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, if you're not getting that vibe, you should go watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it's totally riffing off of it. Not ripping, but riffing. It's totally riffing off of that. Like you should be able to get the idea that this is a computer system, and everybody's cheering for the big black box, and that black box is Sharon Apple's computer system, right? And you know, you see everybody, all these ads leading up to this. You see all these advertisements building this sense of, holy shit, there's a ton of hype for whoever this Sharon Apple is. You see the advertisements on the floor, on the ground.
This is like a high-tech VTuber in a sense.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. This artificial intelligence idol singer that everybody's flipping out over. And that you see like I said, you see Myung, who last time we saw was at the very opening, standing next to Sharon Apple, guiding, walking in with her. And what's interesting about this is, like, there's a moment where when Sharon Apple gets out of the limousine, all the sound is cut, and then we hear music start playing, and it's really, really easy, or really, really eerie music. By the way, the track name is Santiu, by you. I love this.
This is what I mean by the show itself isn't creepy, but the implications are creepy.
Well, oh my god, dude, the music is just killer.
It's also great for foreshadowing, and I guess in a way where it's basically there's something wrong with Sharon, and
yeah, but and that's the thing though, which is like the music, because it's almost like, I don't want to say it because I don't want to sound like I'm cutting her short, but this is like Yoko Ono's like best soundtrack, because it is so varied, and each song in the soundtrack is just oozing with atmosphere, man. It is just oozing with atmosphere. It is so good. And like I say, I mean, I'm to the point where, like, I've listened to the albums off of this so many times, because they're just so good. And it's like, holy shit, man. Like, this is, I could like pick out the songs, as like from scene to scene to scene, from Sharon Apple's repertoire. And that's oh god, it's like, and it's just so eerie as Sharon Apple like moves up the stairs and then like disappears and everything like that.
Yeah, I love
it's
that
just
scene.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't there also
great.
a scene of like a camera zooming on Isamu at some point during that episode as well?
Not this episode. It's the next episode where they go to the where they actually go to the concert, where they go to Sharon Apple's concert.
Sorry, my bad. I'll talk about that scene afterwards. So yeah, we see this very eerie scene of this this hollow tuber, essentially hollow liver.
Yeah. Well, and that's, in a sense, it is a hololiver, because like, well, we start seeing testing, and like I said, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but I will talk about the first episode, right? And the first episode, you start to realize, like, they're working on Sharon Apple's AI, right? But there's problems where Sharon Apple doesn't have the emotions that she needs, and so she, to really, really do a good job. And one of the funny things is, Isamu, as he hears a bit of Sharon Apple singing, and he pauses for a second. He says Myung, he says that girl's name, and he asks Lucy, "Who's that?" And she's like, "Oh, that's Sharon Apple. She's a new virtuoid idol. She's a completely virtual idol, but everybody loves her." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But for a while there, he was like really, really, really weirded out, because to him it sounded like it was Myung's voice, and he's like, "This is weird." So eventually he decides, like, I'm going to take you to the best spot in the city. So he goes to where all the windmills are, and he finds out like that this is now like a hangout spot, right? It's part of a park. Got a very scenic overlook over the city now, nice. In the bay. Whereas originally there was just like nothing there. Now it's all like, it's somewhat developed to be a touristy spot, so you could like actually look at the city. And you first see Myung there hanging out, reminiscing, right? And then this is so well executed to create this amazing sense of depth. Like, she's looking at birds flying. She sees a bird perched on the fence, and then it takes off, and she looks over in that direction, and then she sees in the distance Gold, the Zentradi dude, and the way it's shot is just so well done that you see like the birds fly in front of him to create this amazing sense of depth. And then it cuts to a closer, more focused shot on him, and a couple birds quickly whiz by in the foreground, and they're blurred to again create that sense of depth and the illusion that there's a camera there. And it's like it's the one of those blink and you'll miss it, but like it's one of those things where you watch a lot of modern anime, and
most of them,
granted, I mean, there's
the detail.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, of course, like back in the 90s and 80s, there was shitty anime, and they did and there was anime that really did, cut all those corners, that limited animation techniques and stuff like that. But like this was made back in the day when everything was literally hand drawn, and so like they're using different colors of paint to create the sense of depth, shade. I mean, the shot where it zooms in on Gold has that interplay of light and shadow to create a sense of texture and facial structure on him, which is something that if you watch a lot of anime today, they don't even remotely attempt that, which is some of them do. Some anime studios do that today. But these guys, when they made this, man, they pulled out all the stops.
And they poured their fucking really little heart and soul into this. Like, this is very good.
Oh God, yeah. So like, Myung and Gold start talking, and then who shows up? You really get a quick realization after Isamu shows up that something happened between the three of them. Something romantic, and where Isamu and Gold used to be buddies, now they're enemies.
Over a chick, which is pretty common.
Yeah, but it's not revealed exactly what it was yet.
Yeah, but like when you see that scene, it's like, okay, all right, so they're beefing. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they're pissed at each other over this, and the way, and again, this is all done without telling you. This is all
they just literally show you, like they see each other, and it's like you can see they both hate each other's guts, and it's like, oh
yeah.
Oh, and then you see Ming there, and it's like, that's what it is.
Yeah, and you start to realize, like, after that, like, they basically say, the fight over whose plane is going to win begins. And it's symbolic of their fight over Myung. Like, not only are these guys rivals in whose plane is going to win that competition, right? Who's going to demonstrate that their plane is the better fighter to be mass produced. They're also fighting over Myung now. And she's just completely caught in the middle. Because, like, one of the things that she says is she says, like, she says stuff like, I'm not that little girl you remember, right? I gave up singing. I don't do that anymore. I'm Sharon Apple's producer. I'm in the music industry, but I don't sing anymore. And it's like, one of the things that gets mentioned later in the show is this, like, she was known at her high school that the three of them went to for being a singer. Like, she won all these awards and stuff.
Yeah, like, if she kept going, she could have became the next Midway.
Possibly, yeah.
Or at least up there. Like, as far as, at least as far as her planet goes. Like, maybe she wouldn't be, as wide-reaching as Midway, but maybe for her planet, she'd be almost like the next Midway.
Mm-hmm. And then, so, this leaves us about, 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the first episode, right? So, I don't want to really give up anymore. Like, I'm just describing what happens in the first episode up to a point where it's like, okay, if you've never seen this show, right? Like, this should have whetted your appetite. And so if, you haven't seen this, go watch it, please.
It's good.
This is a really good show, and then we're going to give the albums a listen. Like, go online, look for the Macross Plus soundtracks and stuff, and the OSTs and everything. Go look for them, find them, listen to them, dude. It's actually great music for just zoning out.
Oh yeah,
It really is actually good music for zoning out. Like when you just want to listen to something in the background and take a nap, or just if you want to just relax, or if if you're doing homework and studying, it's really great music. I've been using it for, not gonna lie, I've been using it for 20 years for those purposes. It's a great album, man. It's just, or albums. There's a couple of them, but yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Go listen to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess I guess hereafter there be spoilers.
Oh yeah, there will be spoilers. So yeah. So do you want us to? Should we just continue about individual scenes that we like, or should we like spoil half of the movie?
Well, let's kind of go, I guess, topic by topic, because it's the show is
very multi-layered.
Interesting. God, it is. I mean, like the fact that the fact that the two like Isamu and Gold have this kind of broken friendship. And Gold is dealing with memories that he's suppressing. And by the end of episode 1, that starts to become apparent that he's suppressing memories and he's taking medicine, right, to kind of control his I guess you could say his natural zentradi and, push for violence. And this is interfering. If I remember correctly,
like in the original show, they even the zentradi even mention that. Like, it's very hard for them to scratch that itch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is, though, because the zentradi are effectively of the same genetic stock as humans, it begs the question as to whether or not we ourselves are dealing with this. It's just that I don't want to say more mature, but we're more used to dealing with it in a way that
I think the thing is that, like, I actually go a great way with the thing. I think we're used to more dealing with it because we have other ways to, like, channel it into. The zentradi didn't.
Yeah, they did not, right? And so, like, but it starts, it's funny because for all of his attempts to be,
superior,
emotionally controlled, right? You see how Myung, like, gets to him. One of the things he is he's handsy with her.
Yes.
In that one at the windmill farm, right? At the overlook, the scenic overlook. He's kind of handsy with her. He puts his hand on her shoulders and stuff, and he's like, "I'm going to protect Myung." And it's really interesting because, like, the idea of protection, Mamoru, is really, really big in a lot of Japanese anime. It's a concept that pops up all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we see it in we saw it in Samurai X as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Rurouni Kenshin, but it was called, the movie we watched was called Samurai X. So we see it in that as well. Like, it's this very big scene. And then isn't that like after? And then after that scene, they like have sex. If I remember correctly, was that like before or after?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. But like that, there was a scene that I remember in that movie or OVA. Like, I actually really like that scene. Like, that's a really big moment. But yeah, like he is less in control than he thinks he is. Like Gold's the type of person that you think he's in control, but he's like bordering on the edge of Zen and hockey mask time.
Yes, that's actually kind of a way to put it. Right, and he's suppressing rage like a motherfucker, and it's really apparent when Isamu shows up. Like, this is it's become really apparent. Like, you're really messing with my Zen, dude. And then during it's like at the end of the episode when he's piloting one of the observation planes that's supposed to observe the YF-21 with Gold, and that's all he's supposed to do, is just observe, right? He's a chaser plane that's supposed to observe. They give him a booster so he can keep up and everything, but that's all he's supposed to do, and he's already doing tricks, and he's fucking with Gold. And it's just like he's messing with him, because it's like he is trying to psych him out. It's classic, it's classic, that kind of like, okay, can I get him to make a mistake by messing with his head, right? Can I get him to screw
here's
up?
What makes it even more bad is these two were friends, like good friends. Like, they know how to push buttons.
Oh yeah, and so, like, they got the test where they shoot the drones and then the drones fire the missiles and everything. And Isamu's like, screw this. If he can do it in that plane, I can do it with this, the current plane. If he could do it with the future plane, I could do it with the current plane. And like, so he manages to, like, evade or avoid all the missiles by, like, sacrificing a booster and stuff. He's like, whatever Gold can do in that thing, I can do in this. And he's really fucking with his Zen, dude. And that's when Gold starts to lose it. And Gold has brief glimpses of a flashback. And that flashback is of what Gold actually did. Gold, for all his talk about protecting Myung, Gold, it is heavily implied that he assaulted her.
Yes.
At some point. And that is not revealed. I mean, okay. If you're still listening, this is spoiler time. So If you still haven't seen it, you're fucked. You know,
I,
we're gonna
I,
spoil
I
the
think
whole damn show.
I think that all 10 people who watch this channel regularly know that we
Okay.
spoil shit. But
Yeah, yeah,
but for
I
new
hope so.
viewers or for new people coming on, yeah, like you have been warned, there be spoilers.
Yeah, so like, yeah, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this thing. But yeah, so Gold is the one who did it, and he's been. What this thing is like that also signifies that he feels horrifically guilty over this. He lost control in a moment of passion, and whatever, he lost control and ends up.
And you get the impression that control's very important to him because yes, because he is half Centrati, and obviously.
Yeah.
And I think I remember the scene in the third episode where, like, you know, the medicine, the doctor's saying, like, oh, you know, he's been suppressing in his impulses. I have this all written in the document, and the colonel, like, reads the first page of Peter and shreds it.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe I don't want to type in, but I think there's a tiny bit, like, a tiny bit of racism as well into his character. Like, he's trying to not be like others in Tridi in a way. Like, he's trying to showcase that I am in control. I'm not just gonna make murder and warfare. And I think that's why it is that added pressure to it. Because some people are like, oh, he's half Centrati. You know, he's good as Centrati.
The funny thing is, nobody actually says that during a show, but it definitely is something that he is working on.
Yeah.
That he is functioning off of this assumption.
Yes.
Right? That people are judging him based on his Centrati ancestry. And
it seems like the opposite is occurring. Like, when the colonel reads that paper, he puts it in the shredder because he's like, I don't care. Like, you're telling us something that we already know. He's dealing with it.
Yeah, it's just like, well, it's not more like that he's dealing with it. It's he doesn't want this getting out. Because for a variety of reasons. One, perhaps because he trusts or really does believe in these two guys.
I also think it's also partially to keep, like obviously it's been 30 years, but some of these people probably grew up or maybe had family members who fought in the Earth War. Like,
oh yeah.
Like this is post-war, this is post-space war. Like, that generation or the generation after, there's gonna be some tension there. Like, I guarantee you, dollars to donuts, that there's probably a few people who aren't super cool with the Zentradi, so he's possibly trying to, like, stop it for that reason as well. Like, I think, like, and that's the great thing about the show. These multiple interpretations you could have for some of the scenes. Yeah,
and absolutely, and I mean that's, yeah. So like, then let's talk about the concert they go to, because the concert.
Oh god, I want to talk about the scene with the fucking cameras. It's fucking so eerie and creepy.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because like this thing is like what Mune looks at, what she focuses on. Then that's kind of like what. Oh shit! I just realized the fan sub version I'm looking at actually translates the French the French.
I told you I got good shit.
Shadestorm. Yeah. No. The my Blu-rays don't translate. C'est amour l'amour. Oh non. Yeah. This love. Oh no. Quelle bouche. Yeah. What? I can read French. I just can't. I can't understand it. What it is when it's spoken. Non, mon petit personnage. Wow, that could be no, my little fella. That could actually be a double entendre.
Aren't the French known for that? Like in their poetry, like
Young is also like.
If you read Voltaire, there's some double meaning.
Yeah. Well, Le Petit Mort is like the little death is one of those French colloquialisms for orgasm. But yeah, Young is a complete otaku, but he's also like he's like the 80s like computer savvy, you know, kind of otaku, where Young starts to hack Sharon Apple.
Yeah.
And then he realizes, like, because he's trying to get Sharon to like look at him.
Yeah.
And whoa, I'm looking at the French. Hold on. Right after he hacks her, I'm listening to the tout est prêt pour un chat. Oh shit! It says you think that you're a cat. I don't know if that's a good translation from the French, because the word cat has a double meaning in French.
Oh god.
Pretty much the same as an English synonym for cat has a double meaning. Yeah, basically. I wasn't gonna go there, but okay.
Well, I mean, because loud, power, quiet.
Idle Talk has all this dirty shit in the background. If you listen really, really closely,
Yeah,
it
imagine like
literally
being
sounds
like able, like imagine being French and you're watching this is like, wait, what is this?
yeah. What is the dialogue here? What is the lyrics here? It could be like, I mean, I don't know. I would have to actually have somebody fluent in French who maybe could tell me if the lyrics are as dirty as the shit that's in as this stuff that's in English in the background. But yeah, dude, it's one of my favorite songs in
Yeah,
the entire
and what I really like about the scene is
entire
that as
album.
like he's hacking and shit, you see the camera pan in and out, all the cameras. Like you see like a POV of the camera and then what the camera sees.
Yeah.
And it's all focusing on Uzamu. And then you see Sharon like
Yeah.
smiling. And it's like,
Well,
what the?
Yeah, and she actually goes forward and kisses him. That's
Yeah.
actually the funny thing.
Yeah, like you see that and it's like, whoa.
The hologram goes forward and kisses him. The other thing is, like, if you notice what they're doing is everybody has like these wristbands, and the wristbands, what they're doing is monitoring people's heart rate and shit, and how much they get entranced by the music, which is something that will lay the foundations of what happens in the final episode when at like the 30-year anniversary of the peace treaty between the Zentradi and the UN Spacey.
Yep.
At that scene where like Sharon Apple has her concert, everybody just zones out and gets like hypnotized by Sharon Apple, right? And it's like it like, oh man, they laid the scenes. They laid the scenes for that. You can actually see people starting to zone out to the music and stuff during the concert. And so like this goes beyond what they were doing with Min-Mei, right? This goes beyond Min-Mei. They're actually like under the guise, like the one dude, the psychotic Marge Marge Gildoa, that scientist and developer. He's the guy who also like says Mung is worthless. We're going to put a chip. He gets the illegal artificial intelligence chip.
Yes.
And he puts that in Sharon Apple, and like what is it at the end of the third episode?
He kills the
owner.
producer.
Yeah, he kills the owner. Yeah, the Raymond Marley. He kills him.
Like just headshot. And what I like about it is they
out,
actually show you the headshot. Like you just see like his head clean blown off, and it's like just blood and shit.
Yeah, he just takes him out, and he's like, the guy is you as early as the first episode, they're laying the seeds for this dude to be unhinged, right? And then like Marge Goldoa ends up like committing suicide during the Asain while Asain is playing, right? He jumps off the SDF-1 and casts himself into the hologram of Sharon Apple, right? It's like, because I mean the guy is just gone. You can tell by that point he's just absolutely lost his mind. But like, so he, I mean, if anything, he is the villain, but then he turns kind of Sharon Apple into a villain. And so like, there's that hint of HAL 9000 going crazy and trying to kill everybody in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yep.
Like that zoom in on the eye in the first episode of Sharon Apple that is supposed to evoke HAL 9000 is I believe very much on purpose. Like, yes. Totally on purpose. And then because she gets her emotions from Jung and the psychological stability, like one of the things that Raymond Marley, before he gets capped by Marge Goldoa, one of the things that he says is like those are psychologically unstable. Like he says, they've been known in tests to show emotional and psychological instability. So it's like right off the bat, you know that Sharon Apple is
going to the
emotionally and psychologically unstable, right? She's becoming obsessive and possessive.
Yandere.
And yeah, I guess you could say she's a yandere. I mean, one of the first things she does is she tests both Gold and Isamu. Yes. In like once the chip is put in, she sets fire to the concert hall on Eden.
Yeah, like they both get a call, and it's like, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and Gold, because he gets the call first, he saves Myung. Isamu ends up there late, and there's a great scene in this episode, man. It's a fantastic scene in this episode where it pans around on the floor, Like you got to ask yourself: is she trying to kill Myung and then testing them? Right? It's a really interesting. It's just really interesting. But like, is she trying to kill Myung? And if so, why is she calling these guys to come rescue Myung? And like I said, I think she's kind of like testing them. But Isamu ends up there late after Gold manages to rescue Myung and get out. So this also establishes that Sharon Apple can hack stuff.
Yes.
And then like the next scene we see like Gold like getting his injuries tended to by Myung, and then it really quick, like she's crying, he's gonna leave, and then he's got his hands on his keys. And she puts her hand on his hand, and then she says, "Don't want." She says something like, "I thought I wanted you to go, but I don't. I thought I didn't want to see you again, and I don't." And then you see like they hold hands, and
you know what I think was really interesting is that after that scene, we see like a room of like clothes taken off and shit. And
exactly, and it actually turns out to be Isamu, because then it pans over, you see Isamu on his bed with a frown on his face, and I'm like, wow, what a bait and switch.
Yeah.
What a bait and switch, dude. You thought you were going to see them, in the afterglow, like laying in the bed. No, you didn't. That's left up to your imagination, right? Did they or didn't they? And in fact, Isamu asks Gold the next day, like, what happened? And Gold doesn't say anything, right? Isamu's like, yeah, basically, he basically says, did you nail her? Effectively is what he asks her. Asks Gold, and Gold does not answer. But he doesn't answer that question. He says, "There's only one thing we need to compete over now, and that's the planes."
Yes.
And Isamu's like now doubling down, like, I'm gonna freaking win this.
Especially since here's the thing: when you ask that question and you don't answer it, if I remember correctly, like it usually means yes.
Well, a gentleman doesn't kiss and tell.
Yes.
So it's implied.
I just love it how he's like, the only thing we have to contest now is the planes because I'm better than you.
Yeah.
and this is where their contest. At the end of that. Yeah, and this is where their contest amps up.
Yeah, and at the end of that, they actually just start fighting.
Yes.
And that's it. They just start beating the shit out of each other. And then Isamu's got in the other hand, and then it turns out somehow live ammunition got into Gold's plane.
I wonder how that happened.
And there is a scene where you see them loading live rounds in there. Not you see them loading live rounds. And it's really implied that Gold had those rounds loaded, or somebody had those rounds loaded. But yeah. And then
Isamu ends up in the hospital.
He ends up in the hospital, but he basically like tears himself out.
Yes.
And he, tears himself out of like the healing tank or whatever. This is right around where they get the news. Then he grabs Myung and he takes her on a bike ride on his motorcycle. He's still in his hospital shit.
Yeah. And they eat sour fruit and shit, and they're also talking about like they were like what they were when they were teenagers, and it's like you get this sadness, like this nostalgia that he wishes he could have that again, but it's not happening.
Well, they all kind of have that nostalgia, right? And meanwhile, then you find out that the entire project is canceled. And after that, that's when Isamu and Gold get in a fist fight.
Yeah, and in front of the hospital.
And then Myung gets decked by accident. She jumps in between, and one of the punches meant for the other guy ends up connecting with Myung.
Yeah.
And now they both
this is
feel
just a
like
public
shit.
Service announcement. But when two dudes are fighting, don't get in the middle of it.
Don't get in the way. Yeah.
Just a public service announcement. Like, don't get involved.
And
because you will be decked. You will be decked.
Yeah. And this is actually also where it is revealed that the government is put the kibosh on the plan. And this is one of the reasons that Millard, I think, shreds the papers. He's like, it doesn't matter anymore. The government has a new artificial intelligence fighter plane, the Ghost X9, which I believe also the Ghost Fighter pops up, I believe, in the stealth. It's supposed to be like a stealth AI unmanned air spacecraft, fighter craft, and that ends up. I think that pops up in but it's manned. But I think it pops up in a couple times in Macross 7 as well. So we see all three models.
Yeah,
I believe appear in Macross 7.
We'll have to double check when we get around to watching Macross 7, but that's going to be a while.
Yeah. You can watch the whole business again. Jesus. The scene though, like oh, damn, who gives Mewing the recording? Can't remember. Is that her friend?
I think it is.
Yeah, her buddy. That's her high school song or whatever that she sang. The song Voices, and that's the song that the show opens up with. And when
I love the scene where she's like listening to it and she's like crying.
Yeah, no, that is a great scene, dude. Where and just everything about it, the way it's timed, that the ship taking off, the fact that the ship is actually they're boarding it and it's a seagoing vessel, but it sails out and then it lifts up into space, and then it like warps to
Earth.
Warps to Earth. Yeah,
because that's what
that scene is so cool.
Yes,
like that's actually one of those scenes where it's just like we get to see a little bit of how people live. Like we get to see what the technology is like. That's actually one of the things I really like about Macross Plus is it doesn't take place on a colony ship, right? It doesn't take place on one of those big colony ships. It takes place on a planet.
Yeah,
and it stands alone in that regard, and we can see like it takes place on a planet that has been colonized. It is part of the the area. It's one of those things I really dig, and it's just so interesting. And the planet Eden really does seem to have its own,
ecosystem,
its own ecosystem, and just its own character. It's a really like the city that Eden exists in really does seem to have its own tone, its own atmosphere, its own character. It feels like a place.
It kind of feels like hope.
Yeah, it feels like we made it. We made it to stars. We found an Earth-like planet. We've settled it, and we've made it. Right? We're building this colony.
Like here's the thing. Like Earth was kind of fucked, but like they're rebuilding Earth. But this could be a new home.
Yeah, and it's really cool. It's really cool because it's just the planet. Just it the city that it takes place in, it just really feels like a place. It feels like a living, breathing
world
setting. Yeah, it feels like a living, breathing setting. And that's the fact that they pull that off in 3 actually, because in the 4th episode they go to Earth. Almost nothing happens on Eden in the 4th episode. But the fact that in 3 episodes they can really make this planet Eden like feel like a place. Like you actually, the stadium is a major landmark that can be viewed from multiple angles throughout the show.
Yep.
You feel like a sort of repetitive. You feel like there's a definite geography there, where they cross the bridge over a portion of the harbor a couple times in the show. Like it just really feels like it's this living, breathing spot. And I think that's super awesome about how they designed it, how they animated it, everything. It's just really well realized.
Yeah, it feels like an actual fleshed out setting, and it kind of makes me wish that some shows let you do this, because other shows will do this, because usually people can play like the high school stuff, like it doesn't really feel like a setting. It's more like a backdrop for shit to take in. But like here, like it's an actual setting. Like this is Planet Eden. This represents the new hope for humanity, in a sense.
Yeah, it's like this is it. It's like this is what we promised we were going to do at the end of the original Macross. This is what we promised we were going to do. We were going to go out and we were going to colonize these planets. And Macross Plus, even though even though it's a prequel of sorts to Macross 7, Macross 7 started airing in late 1994. Macross Plus started being released at only a few months before the summer. So Macross 7 was airing while the episodes of Macross Plus were being worked on.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it does kind of, it is, I guess it's the first foray into the Macross universe since I guess Do You Remember Love and Flashback the hell is that called? Flashback 2020, I don't remember. 2012, that's it. Flashback 2012. It's like the first thing that came out since Do You Remember Love and Flashback 2012. It's the first thing that I can remember or I can think of that came out of the Macross franchise since those in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of had like this 10-year gap, and then finally like Macross comes back.
Yeah.
And I'm not listing Macross 2 because fuck that shit. Let's not talk about Macross. If there are people listening who's like, what about Macross 2? No. That's it. No.
Yeah, I've heard, I'm ignoring if I want to watch it or not.
Friends don't let friends watch Macross 2.
Is it that bad?
There's a big thing. Well, if you go back to like the 80s and 90s, there was an old anti-drunk driving campaign called, and the motto was, friends don't let friends drive drunk. Yeah, friends don't let friends watch Macross 2. It's that simple. If you want to see something like really shitty, go ahead, watch it. Okay. But it's not. It does like one or two interesting things, but overall, it's just no.
So this is like a 4 out of 10 essentially, or a 3 out of 10. Like it's just that bad.
What did I rate it? Let me see what I rated it at. I know I didn't rate it well. I know this is a bit of an aside, but nevertheless,
That'll be fine. Like, listen, I'm probably not going to release this video for like another month or two, so
Okay. All right. So Macross. Let's see. Macross 2
because I'm kind of curious. Because I am kind of curious.
I gave it a D minus.
Oof.
And on Mal it's a 4. I gave it a 4. Bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. It had ideas, but it's not a good. It's not as good of a sequel as Plus and 7. It really isn't. It's not. It's not. But like, stick with. And a lot of that is, I'm pretty sure Shoji Kawamori was not associated with it, so.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm looking for Macross 2, like, he never comes up on the fucking list, so I don't even think he made that one. You know what I think it is? I think it's like, you know how Kojima left Capcom, or, no, was he part of Capcom? Konami, yeah. Like, when Kojima left Konami, like, they made their own, like, Metal Gear Solid game, and it absolutely sucked.
And it was bad. It was the Macross 2 of Metal Gear. There you go. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. That's basically how this is how I'm going to be viewing Macross 2. It's basically without the fucking creator, this thing sucks.
Yeah. So, anyway, as we're talking about it, like, so we talked a little bit about, Gold, because, at this point, it's like, everybody, they've seen it. So, and it's not a very long series. So, kind of going scene by scene. What scenes really stood out to you? What moments really stood out to you? What made a real big impact on you? Out of curiosity, about Macross Plus.
I think it was like the Shannon, the 4th episode, like with the Shannon shit, like all the moves like tied up with wires and shit. There's like holograms. One of them's like naked and shit. Like there's this like creepy erotic undertone. And also,
absolutely.
And also, Gold and Isamu's like big fight, like the fight in the training yard. Those were kind of the two things that kind of stood out to me, like their rivalry and shit.
The moment where what's her name? Myung gets captured by
yes,
and the kind of tentacle, the wires acting as tentacles wrapping Myung up by
and the entire conversation they have as well is very interesting. And
there is. I'm not gonna lie. Like Myung is a very
attractive woman,
well drawn, very shapely, absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is, the scene where she's being kind of like Sharon Apple's trying to strangle her to death.
Yeah,
does most certainly accentuate parts of her anatomy that when you said like there's almost like an erotic cameraman sort of thing about it going on like. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that because that scene, although it is interesting because there's a moment where the wires go slack and Myung drops out of the camera's view, and then you see the wires kind of like pull apart a little bit and then pull her up, and she comes back into view, and she's in a cross shape. Like she's being crucified.
Yes.
And I found that very interesting. Like visually interesting. Like why choose, why are you crucifying Myung, right? What does she represent that you're going to crucify her? Sharon hates her, but loves her at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
Because her emotions gave Sharon Apple her emotions. But
yeah, it's almost actually. You know what it is? What I think it is? It's like when Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross. Like Sharon is like it's like Jesus being the Father and the Son at the same time. If I don't think I'm explaining it properly, but it's almost like.
I mean, I wouldn't really put too much emphasis on any kind of Western religious symbolism there because I'm not really sure if any of them.
Okay, but I just want to mention like it's kind of like the reverse of like Jesus being hung on the cross in a way.
It could be. I mean,
because Mew was like Mew was almost like the creator, you know, of Sharon.
Yeah, in a very real sense, she's Sharon's mother.
Yeah.
Right, but also she's Sharon's romantic rival.
Yes.
Because that's the thing is Gold and Isamu both hold a important place in Myung's heart, and I think that is very apparent.
I think the discussion is very interesting. Like you got like one Sharon that's like half naked, and if I remember correctly, like the nerd, he gets attacked by Sharon as well.
Who?
The nerd, because remember when they jack the jet and they're off the Earth?
Oh, yeah. Well, Sharon starts hacking the plane, and so the music starts coming through, and Yang grabs a pistol and he puts it next to Isamu's head, and Isamu, I forget what he does. What does he eject him? He ejects him like right then and there, and also like the bullet ricocheting off of the mask,
knocks his helmet.
And the way it shatters his helmet, the glass of his helmet. That is so cool. It is so well done.
Good detail too, yeah. But it like the fourth episode is just such a banger, and also like Gold's like last moments was great as well. Because like he finally remembers that like, oh wait a minute, I was the one that assaulted Mew.
Yeah, no, and well that's the thing is at the very end of his fight with Isamu, he is confronted with the reality of what he has done. And that is the amazing thing. Gold also has his crowning moment of glory because he's the one who kills the ghost.
Yes.
He's the one who defeats the ghost. And this is one of the interesting scenes in the anime is Gold taking her out. And if I recall, the movie does that exact moment a lot more brutally.
Yeah, because like in the OVA, we just see him crash and burn, like boom.
Yeah. In the OVA, we see him crash and burn, but in the movie, it is actually like Gold's death is actually like way more. We see him crush himself with G-forces, right? Literally, we're seeing him crush himself in the movie version. They animate him basically kind of crushing himself with G-forces, and you see the way his plane collides with the ghost fighter is also, I guess, more. It's not as direct. I'm looking for a way to describe it, but it's more
distant,
subtle
and distant.
Yeah, and more, I guess, calmly emotional. Yeah. It's weird because it's hard to explain. But yeah, like if you watch it, it's like he's barely keeping up. He's chasing it.
Yeah.
And he's getting closer and closer, and the G-forces are just straining him. We see his face start to cave in. We see blood come out of his mouth. We see his eye just collapse.
Blow up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, yeah. And that's when, boom, he just, like, collides with it. And Myung knows what's happening, or somehow senses what's happening. Yeah, and it's just beautiful. It's just, the way it's done is just beautiful. It's just so... And then Myung's plane, or Gold's plane survives where the ghost crashes and burns. And Gold just ends up accelerating into orbit as kind of like this permanent tomb with his body crushed within his suit. It's awesome. It's just so well done. It's him. I don't know how to describe it. It's just way more emotionally impactful.
Yeah, it's just great. Mwah.
It's way more emotionally impactful. Yeah. But, like, by the end of this, man, you're going to hate Sharon Apple. Like, by the end of this, dude, you're really going to hate her. It's
what's
funny.
I think is really interesting is she actually takes control of the Macross as well, like the original Macross.
Well, that's the thing is, well, and that's the thing is, it lays out that idea that she can hack when she hacks the computers and basically routes all the energy through one circuit and starts a fire, right? That establishes that Sharon Apple can hack, right? And so when she hacks when she mesmerizes everybody, again, that was established, and now she manages to hack the Macross. We're not strained by that. This doesn't come out of the blue. This doesn't come out of nowhere, right? And that's another thing where it's just like, this is tight, focused, really good storytelling.
Yeah, it's a yandere fucking VTuber who can hack and is in love with you, so run.
A VTuber that tried to kill the girl that's playing her, you know? It's like, imagine like if Kiryu Coco decided, fuck you, Kason, I'm going to murder Kason and take her place or something like that. Like,
God, that'd be like Inception, because like it's gonna be like, where does Kason start and where does Coco end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the
You know, someone should make a movie about that. Like a really like someone should make a really like freaking like make a fan parody of that, like VTuber avatars taking over like the people who control them lives. That'd be a really fucked anime.
Yeah. This is the end of Macross Plus, when it's finally over and everything is calm and you kind of figure everybody's been released. The SDF one is sunk back into the lake, and
I'm actually surprised that thing could still fly.
Well, yeah, me too. Actually, as busted up as a. Yeah, but
like you would think that you would think that if they're using it as like a monument and shit, they would like disable that crap so no one could have any brilliant ideas of like, oh, this thing can fly, I'm gonna jack the Macross.
Yeah, but it's interesting because at the very end, Isamu flies by and you see the the sun starts coming up after he lands.
Yep.
And him and Myung are just sitting watching the sunrise. And at the very end, the Voices is playing again, the song Voices. And it says in the caption real quick in English, not in Japanese. It says, "Dedicated to you, our future pioneers," and that's actually something I find really interesting because in the very first episode, it said something almost identical.
Yep.
Let me double check real quick.
And like, if you especially see where Macross is going with the
dedicated to all pioneers. Yep. It's so this idea that like pioneers, people going forward, settling new lands, like settling new planets, should be. And that is one of those themes of Macross, venturing into the unknown.
I mean, this is what, like, these colony ships, like, they become the first cities for these planets we colonize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny because it's like the end of this. I always feel whenever I watch a Macross movie. A Macross movie or a TV show like Macross Plus, the original Macross, I always end up feeling like when it's over, I always got this desire for more.
Yeah.
I always feel like, I just, especially at the end of Macross Plus, I always feel like, man, I watched something that was really, really good, really, really genuine, really had a lot of love in it, really is trying to say something, not necessarily deep and intellectual, but something that is definitely poignant, universal.
Yep.
It's like, to me, this I'm one of those older members of the older generation that grew up with anime primarily being science fiction. And, the way it ends is just like, man, that was really good. And, when it's over, you just kind of like feel a little sad that it's over, kind of, I guess. And because, we've been along for the ride. We felt like we've kind of like gotten to know these characters and stuff. It's a feeling I got that's very similar to how I felt at the end of Macross Do You Remember Love, or the original SDF Macross and stuff. And a lot of it is the music, dude. The Do You Remember Love theme song, or in the case of Macross Plus, Voices. And again, it's Yoko Kanno's composition, dude.
Yeah, she's
Yoko
great.
Kanno is just, I mean, God.
Yep. Now, careful,
So good.
careful, because next month. Oh no, that's next month. That's right, because it's August the 1st where I am right now. I was about to make a joke, but it's not going to work because I forgot that we're not in September. But anyway, yeah. Macross Plus, fucking great OVA, great movie. You should watch it. It's dark, it's creepy. Implications are creepy.
And it's not that creepy. I don't think it's that creepy.
Okay, it's not that creepy. All right, but it's a little creepy.
The music can be really atmospheric.
Yes.
I will give you that, and it has creepy moments because of Yoko Kanno's soundtrack. I'll give you that. I would never describe the Macross Plus as a whole as creepy, but it does have creepy moments.
Yeah. Anything else?
Oh God. I mean, I think we could talk about more, but I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, it's just the thing is, I mean, if we could keep talking, but in the end, we're going to probably just keep just filleting the show.
Yeah, like we're just going to keep on simping for Yuki Kojiro.
Who? I mean, Yoko Kanno?
Sorry, I was thinking of someone else. Sorry, Yuki Kanno. Sorry.
Yoko Kanno, yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in this show. I mean, this is something that you could literally go scene by scene and just really talk about the shot compositions and stuff.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm not exactly here's the thing. I'm not very skilled with cinematography. Like, I know of it, as an idea, but I don't know everything. Noretsu would know about that shit.
He might know, but yeah.
And he did take a photog. Actually, no, he would know because he went to photography class. Like, he would actually. I should ask him next time we chat.
Well, maybe, yeah, but I mean, you're not going to get this level out of Macross 7 because that was a TV show.
Yeah.
But yeah, Macross Plus. I mean, dude, a lot of the shot compositions are just really. I mean, I've talked about a couple of them, right? There's moments where yes, if you look at the background, you have people looking really goofy in a still shot. Even though it's one of the best animated OVAs, there are moments where yes. You're going to see where they cut corners and they took shortcuts. The funny thing is, though, where it really, really matters. And I'd say, not even that. It was there's loads of places where it's just really well detailed and well animated. There are loads of places where it's just really well detailed and well animated. It had a reputation. It really did. And yes, it's an old school anime, right? But when I was in college and in high school, in the mid to late 90s, this Macross Plus already had gotten that reputation. This is the best animated OVA people had ever seen. And actually, one of the things I do want to mention is the CG. There is CG in this anime. It is seamlessly incorporated when they're going through the computer view. The computer, where it shows the missile trajectories and shit. That stuff is computer animated. And that though is incorporated so well that it just feels completely natural. There are a couple other moments where there's some.
Oh, when they do it, when they do the folding, it's pretty noticeable then. But the other stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, when they fold space, yeah. Nevertheless, though, there's a couple other places where it's computer animation, and you can tell. But by and large, it's really, really seamless. It just feels like it belongs.
Yeah.
It feels right. And especially during the time period that this was made, that has still aged well, in my opinion, says something, right? That has still aged well really says something. And like I said, the things that they do to create the sense of depth, to create the illusion that this is real, blurring blurring things that are, if this was a handheld, actual, physical, real camera filming something that was focused on, something in the middle ground, things in the foreground and the background are going to be blurry. The fact that it does that, the animators actually took the time to do that in a number of scenes to create that sense of depth and distance. It really just shows that dedication to
the craft.
The craft. Yeah, that's no other way to really put it. Yeah, the craft. Like, these guys were serious about this. And they made a
fucking great show.
4 episodes long, 45 minutes an episode. Fucking worth every single one. Get the Blu-ray, dude. It's worth having on your shelf. It really is. I know I'm simping for this, but fuck it. I think manga entertainment.
It's fine, full. It's not no September yet. Yeah. That's a month away.
Oh fuck! But it's like, I think manga entertainment still is still selling it in the US and UK. Manga entertainment was the ones who licensed it way back in the 90s too.
Nice.
I remember when manga was really good. They were doing a lot of good shit.
All right. I think I'm going to end the video now. So thank you all for joining me. And
no problem.
Yeah, we'll try and do like Macross 7 maybe in a couple months' time. We'll see.
Yeah, well, we were also talking about
yeah, that's right. We're going to do Yahari next, weren't we?
Yeah, or Gairu or Yahari. We were talking about having a couple of
he still hasn't still come back to me. So can you try and message him?
Plot Progressor B. Yeah, I can talk to him about that. And I
asked him. He hasn't responded yet. So either he's busy or he's fucking ignoring my emails.
He's busy. He's probably busy. But this one guy I know, Ramble Pack 64, mostly does video game stuff, but he might be interested, or I know he's interested. So actually,
YouTube been watching. Oh no, wait, I'll cut that part out. Yeah. So actually, the next thing I think we're going to be doing together is Yahari. I'll reread the light novels. Well, I won't reread the light novels. I'll rewatch the anime again, but I've got the light novels as well. For if we need some extra context. Yeah. So we're going to be doing Yahari next at some point. So I'll see you guys later.
I think what we ought to, well, just before we go, I think what we ought to do is we ought to do Yahari by season, but nevertheless.
That's fine.
Anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead, do the outro.
Alright, this is Bio Gundam, thanks for watching, and this is Bio Gundam signing out.
This is Fvlminatvs signing off.